The stars had always called to humanity. For centuries, they looked up at the night sky and dreamed of what lay beyond. Now, in the year 2347, those dreams had become reality. Humans had spread beyond their small blue planet and built homes on 3 new worlds among the stars. But humanity was not alone in the universe. Far from it. The Galactic Coalition had ruled this part of the galaxy for over 50,000 years. 12 ancient alien civilizations made up this powerful group. They had built empires, conquered worlds, and watched countless younger species rise and fall. To them, humans were nothing special. Just another primitive race that had stumbled into space too soon. Admiral Jake Hartley stood on the bridge of the carrier Valiant Sun and stared at the message on his screen. His gray eyes were hard, and his jaw was tight. He had served in the fleet for 30 years, but he had never seen anything like this. The message was simple and cruel. The Coalition demanded that humanity surrender all colony worlds immediately. They wanted Earth to destroy its entire fleet. They wanted humans to accept permanent oversight as a protected species. In other words, they wanted humanity to become pets. "They cannot be serious," said Lieutenant Commander Lisa Monroe. She stood beside the Admiral, her dark hair pulled back in a tight braid. Lisa was the ship's weapons specialist, and she knew every system on the Valiant Sun better than anyone. "They are completely serious," Jake replied. He turned to face his crew. The bridge was quiet. Everyone had read the message. Everyone understood what it meant. The Coalition sees us as children playing with dangerous toys. They want to take those toys away before we hurt ourselves. On Earth, the United Council met in emergency session. Leaders from every nation gathered to discuss the impossible choice before them. Surrender meant giving up everything humanity had built. Resistance meant war against an enemy with thousands of years of military experience and technology, beyond human understanding. The vote was unanimous. Humanity would not surrender. When the Coalition received Earth's response, High Commander Zorvith of the Kelthari Empire laughed. He was a tall creature with gray skin and 4 arms. His species had conquered dozens of worlds, and he had personally led campaigns that wiped out 3 civilizations. Humans were insects to him. Annoying insects that needed to be crushed. "Assemble the fleet," Zorvith commanded. "Every available ship. We will end this in 3 days." The Coalition gathered over 8,000 warships. Massive dreadnoughts that could destroy moons. Fast cruisers with shields that could withstand nuclear explosions. Fighter carriers that held millions of small attack craft. It was the largest military force assembled in 10,000 years. And it was all aimed at humanity. Admiral Hartley had 47 ships. He gathered his captains for a final briefing aboard the Valiant Sun. The mood was grim but determined. These men and women knew they were probably going to die. They came anyway. "We cannot win a straight fight," Jake admitted. "But we can make them pay for every inch of space they take. We can show them that humans do not break easily. And maybe, just maybe, we can buy enough time for our colonies to evacuate civilians." Lisa Monroe worked through the night before the battle. She ran diagnostic after diagnostic on the ship's weapon systems. The pulse cannons were humanity's main offensive tool. They fired concentrated bursts of plasma that could punch through armor and melt hull plating. Standard technology. Nothing special, but something was wrong. Or, rather, something was different. The diagnostic readouts showed energy patterns she had never seen before. Strange symbols appeared briefly on her screen and then vanished. The power levels were higher than they should have been. Much higher. "That's impossible," she whispered to herself. She ran the diagnostic again. The same results appeared. The weapons were operating beyond their design limits, but nothing was breaking. In fact, the system seemed more stable than ever. Lisa thought about reporting this to the Admiral, but there was no time. The Coalition fleet had arrived. The first battle took place over New Haven, humanity's largest colony world. 3 million people lived on that planet. Farmers, scientists, teachers, children. They watched the sky darken as the Coalition fleet blocked out the sun. On the ground, Sergeant Danny Cole organized the evacuation. He was a simple soldier from a small town in Kansas. He had joined the military because he wanted to see the stars. Now he was going to die under them. "Keep moving," he shouted at the crowd of civilians. "Shuttles are leaving every 5 minutes. Stay calm and keep moving." An old woman grabbed his arm. Her eyes were filled with tears. "Are we going to be okay?" Danny wanted to lie. He wanted to tell her that everything would be fine. But he had seen the reports. He knew how many ships were coming. "I don't know," he said honestly, "but I'm going to do everything I can to protect you." Above the planet, the Coalition fleet moved into attack formation. High Commander Zorvith gave the order to begin the assault. He expected the human ships to scatter like frightened animals. He expected easy victory. Admiral Hartley gave his own order. "All ships fire at will." The Valiant Sun's pulse cannons activated. Lisa Monroe watched her screens in disbelief as the weapons performed far beyond anything she had ever seen. The plasma bursts were brighter, faster, and more powerful than any test had ever shown. The first volley hit a Kelthari dreadnought directly in the center of its hull. The dreadnought was supposed to be invulnerable. Its shields were supposed to be impenetrable. It was supposed to shrug off human weapons like raindrops. Instead, it exploded. The massive ship broke apart in a ball of fire and debris. Smaller Coalition vessels nearby were caught in the explosion and destroyed as well. In a single moment, humanity had done something impossible. High Commander Zorvith stared at his tactical display. His 4 hands gripped the arms of his command chair. This was not possible. Human weapons could not do this. Their technology was too primitive. But the evidence was burning in front of his eyes. Across the battlefield, every human ship was achieving the same impossible results. Coalition vessels that should have been untouchable were dying by the dozens. Shields failed. Armor melted. Proud warships became floating graves. On the bridge of the Valiant Sun, Admiral Hartley watched the destruction with a mixture of hope and confusion. They were winning. Somehow, against all odds, they were winning. But he had no idea why. Lisa Monroe ran to her station and pulled up the weapon diagnostics again. The strange symbols were back, and this time they stayed on screen. She did not recognize the language. She did not recognize the technology. Whatever was making their weapons so powerful, it was not human. Someone else had built this. Someone had hidden advanced technology inside humanity's weapons. Someone had been preparing them for this moment. But who? And why? The first battle was over. The Coalition had lost 400 ships. Humanity had lost 7. High Commander Zorvith ordered a retreat to regroup and reconsider. In the space above New Haven, the survivors of the human fleet floated among the wreckage of their enemies. They had won. They were alive, and they had no idea how or why. The real questions were just beginning. The news of the first battle spread across the galaxy like wildfire. The Great Coalition, the undefeated masters of 1,000 worlds, had been beaten by primitive humans. No one believed it at first. Many thought it was some kind of trick or mistake in the reports, but it was true. And it changed everything. High Commander Zorvith paced back and forth in his command chamber. His gray skin had turned pale, and his 4 hands would not stop shaking. He had led hundreds of campaigns. He had crushed rebellions and conquered empires. He had never lost a battle so completely. How is this possible? He demanded. His officers had no answer. The data made no sense. Human weapons were supposed to be weak. Their ships were supposed to be slow. Every analysis, every study, every report had said the same thing. Humans were no threat. The analysis was wrong. Zorvith ordered his remaining fleet to regroup at a staging point far from human space. He called for reinforcements from every coalition member world. This time, he would bring everything. Every ship, every weapon, every soldier. He would leave nothing to chance. Back on New Haven, the evacuation continued. Sergeant Danny Cole had not slept in 2 days. His eyes were red, his uniform was dirty, and his muscles ached with exhaustion. But he kept working. There were still civilians to protect. "Sergeant, you need to rest," said Private Amy Foster. She was young, barely 20 years old, with blonde hair and bright blue eyes. This was her first deployment. She had never expected it to be like this. "I'll rest when everyone is safe," Danny replied. He helped an elderly man onto the next evacuation shuttle. How many more? About 2,000 in this sector. The shelters on the north side still have people waiting. Danny nodded and started walking toward the north side of the city. His rifle hung at his side. It was a standard military weapon, the same type soldiers had carried for generations. Nothing special about it, at least. That was what he had always believed. The second coalition attack came 3 days later. This time, Zorvith committed his full remaining strength. Over 6,000 warships entered human space in a massive wave of death and destruction. Admiral Jake Hartley watched them come. His fleet had grown slightly as ships from other colonies arrived to join the fight, but he still had less than 100 vessels. The math was impossible. Even with their surprisingly powerful weapons, they could not defeat this many enemies. "All hands, battle stations," he announced over the fleet-wide channel. "This is going to be the fight of our lives. Give them everything you have." The battle began over the empty space between New Haven and Earth. It was the largest space battle in human history, and it would decide the fate of humanity. Lisa Monroe stood at her weapons station and watched the Coalition fleet advance. Her fingers moved across the controls with practiced ease. She had spent days studying the strained readings from their weapons. She still did not understand what was happening, but she knew one thing for certain. Whatever power was hidden inside their technology, it was activated now. "Firing solution locked," she reported. "Ready to fire on your command, Admiral." Fire! The valiant sun unleashed its full fury. Pulse cannons blazed with energy that should not have been possible. Each shot that hit a coalition ship seemed to pass through shields like they were not there. Armor meant to withstand nuclear explosions crumbled like wet paper. Across the battlefield, every human ship was doing the same. They were outnumbered 60-1, but they were winning. On the ground, the coalition had landed troops. Thousands of Calthari soldiers marched through the streets of New Haven's capital city, their advanced weapons ready to slaughter any human they found. Danny Cole and his squad were waiting for them. The first wave of Calthari soldiers rounded a corner and found themselves facing a small group of humans behind makeshift barriers. The aliens laughed. Their armor could stop human bullets. Their shields could deflect human weapons. These humans were already dead. They just did not know it yet. Danny raised his rifle and fired. The pulse from his weapon passed through the Calthari soldier's shield like it was not there. It punched through his armor like it was made of cloth. The alien died before he hit the ground. The other Calthari soldiers stopped laughing. "What? What is that weapon?" One of them, STMMERED. Danny did not answer. He just kept firing. The ground battle lasted 4 hours. By the end, every Calthari soldier on the planet was dead or captured. Human casualties were light. The soldiers could not explain it. Their weapons had performed far beyond anything they had ever seen in training. In space, The outcome was even more dramatic. The Coalition lost over 2,000 ships in the first 3 hours. High Commander Zorvith watched his tactical display in horror. As his fleet was torn apart by weapons that should have been toys, he ordered another retreat. This time, he fled all the way back to Coalition space. On the bridge of the Valiant Sun, there was no celebration. Admiral Hartley stood in silence, staring at the wreckage floating outside his window. They had won again, but the victory did not feel real. "How are we doing this?" he asked quietly. No one answered because no one knew. Chief Engineer Sam Reeves had been working non-stop since the first battle. He was a short man with graying hair and grease-stained hands. He had spent his entire career taking machines apart and putting them back together. He knew every system on the Valiant Sun, or so he had thought. "Admiral, you need to see this." Sam's voice came through the communication system. His tone was strange, confused and frightened at the same time. Jake made his way down to the engineering deck. Sam was standing beside an open panel near the main reactor core. His face was pale. "What did you find?" Jake asked. Sam pointed inside the panel. "Look at this." Jake leaned in and looked. Inside the familiar human technology, mixed among circuits and wiring he recognized, were components he had never seen before. Strange metals that seemed to glow faintly. Crystal structures that pulsed with inner light. Symbols carved into surfaces that should have been smooth. "What is this?" Jake whispered. "I have no idea," Sam replied. "But it's in everything. The reactors, the weapons, the shields, the engines. Every critical system has these things inside it, and they're not human." Jake stepped back. His mind was racing. "Are you telling me that our technology is not actually our technology?" "I'm telling you that someone else built the most important parts of our ships. And they did it in a way that we would never notice." Lisa Monroe arrived with Dr. Megan Walsh, the fleet's senior science officer. Megan was a thin woman with sharp eyes and an even sharper mind. She took one look at the alien components and immediately started running scans. "These materials don't match anything in our databases," she reported. "The energy signatures are completely unknown. But based on the decay patterns in these crystals, I can estimate their age." "How old?" Jake asked. Megan looked up from her scanner. Her face had gone white. "Approximately 12,000 years." The room was silent. 12,000 years ago, humans were still living in caves and hunting with spears. They had not invented writing yet. They certainly had not built spaceships. "That's impossible," Lisa said. "The data doesn't lie," Megan replied. "Someone built this technology 12,000 years ago. Then they hid it inside human machines in a way that would make us think we invented it ourselves." Jake sat down heavily on a nearby crate. His entire understanding of human history was collapsing around him. Everything humanity had achieved in space, every ship they had built, every weapon they had created, it was all a lie. Someone else had given them these gifts. Someone had been watching humanity for thousands of years. Someone had prepared them for this war. But who? And why would they help humanity against the Coalition? The questions burned in Jake's mind. He needed answers, and he had a feeling that finding those answers would change everything. "Dr. Walsh," he said slowly, "I want you to search every database we have. Look for anything that might connect to these energy signatures." "Anything at all?" Megan nodded. "I'll start immediately." As she left, Jake looked out the window at the stars. Somewhere out there was the truth. Someone had armed humanity for a war they did not even know was coming. He was going to find out who. And he was going to find out why. The mystery was just beginning. Dr. Megan Walsh worked without rest for 3 days. She searched every scientific database humanity possessed. She analyzed every unusual reading, every strange signal, every unexplained phenomenon ever recorded. And finally, she found something. "Mars," she said, standing in Admiral Hartley's office. Her eyes were red from lack of sleep, but her voice was excited. "There are ruins on Mars." Jake leaned forward in his chair. "Ruins? I thought we explored every inch of that planet centuries ago." "We did. But these structures were dismissed as natural rock formations. Nobody looked closely because nobody expected to find anything." Megan pulled up images on her tablet. "The energy signature from those so-called rock formations matches the alien components in our ships exactly." The Admiral stared at the images. What had once looked like random hills and valleys now seemed to form a pattern. A deliberate pattern. Someone had built something on Mars long before humans even existed. "I'm sending a team," Jake decided immediately. "If there are answers there, we need them now." Captain Kate Dawson led the mission. She was a tall woman with short brown hair and steady hands. She had earned her rank through years of dangerous missions and difficult choices. Now she faced the most important mission of her life. Her shuttle landed on the red surface of Mars near the coordinates Megan had provided. 5 soldiers and 2 scientists accompanied her. They wore heavy environment suits and carried weapons that might or might not work against whatever they found. "Spread out and search," Kate ordered. "Look for anything that doesn't belong." Private Ryan Grant was the first to find it. He stepped on what looked like solid ground and felt something shift beneath his boots. A moment later, a section of rock slid away to reveal a staircase leading down into darkness. "Captain, over here." Kate joined him at the edge of the opening. Her heart was pounding, but her voice remained calm. "Everyone, on me. We're going down." The stairs led deep underground. Emergency lights flickered on as they descended, responding to their presence. Someone had designed this place to activate when visitors arrived. Someone had been expecting them. At the bottom of the stairs, they found a massive chamber. It was larger than any building on Earth. Strange machines lined the walls, their purposes unknown. Crystal pillars rose from the floor, glowing with soft blue light. In the center of the room was a pedestal, and above that pedestal floated a sphere of pure energy. As Kate approached the sphere, it began to change. The energy shifted and formed shapes, images. A holographic display activated, and suddenly the chamber was filled with light. A figure appeared before them. It was humanoid but not human. Taller, with longer limbs and larger eyes. Its skin was pale blue, and its face was kind. "Welcome, children of Earth," the figure said. Its voice echoed through the chamber. "We have waited long for this day." Kate's mouth went dry. "Who are you?" "We are the Vayari. Or rather, we were. Our civilization died long ago, but we left this message for you. For humanity." The hologram continued, and the story it told changed everything. Kate thought she knew about the universe. The Vayari had been the first great civilization in the galaxy. They had risen when the ancestors of the Coalition were still simple creatures crawling in mud. For millions of years, they had explored the stars, built wonders, and sought understanding. But something had come from outside the galaxy. Something dark and terrible. The Vayari fought against it with all their power, but they could not win. Their civilization fell, and their people died. In their final days, the Vayari looked to the future. They searched the galaxy for any species that might one day stand against the returning darkness. They found many candidates, but only one truly impressed them: humanity. "Your species was young when we found you," the hologram explained. "You lived in caves and hunted with stones. But we saw something in you. A fire that burned brighter than any we had ever seen. A will to survive that could not be broken. We knew that you would one day reach the stars." The Vayari had made a decision. They would not save themselves. but they would save humanity. For 12,000 years, they had secretly guided human development. They had hidden their technology inside human inventions. They had made sure that when humanity finally faced a true threat, they would be ready. The weapons you carry, the ships you fly, they are all our gifts to you, the hologram said. We made them simple enough for you to understand, but powerful enough to defeat any enemy. The Coalition believes they are the masters of the galaxy. They are wrong. You are the inheritors of everything we built. Kate listened in stunned silence. 12,000 years of hidden help. Every human achievement in space was built on Vayari gifts. It was almost too much to process. Why us? She finally asked. Why humanity? The hologram smiled sadly. Because you never give up. Other species accept defeat. They bow to greater powers. They submit to tyranny because it is easier than fighting. But not you. Humans fight even when victory is impossible. Humans hope even when all hope is lost. That is why we chose you. The display changed to show a new set of coordinates. These were not on Mars. They were on Earth. There is one final gift we left for you, the Vayari said. A ship, our greatest creation. It sleeps beneath the waters of your homeworld, waiting for the day when you would need it. That day has come. Wake it and use it to protect your people. Kate transmitted everything to Admiral Hargley immediately. The data, the recordings, the coordinates, everything. On the Valiant Sun, the crew watched the Vayari message in stunned silence. 12,000 years of secret help. An ancient civilization that had believed in humanity when humans were still learning to walk upright. We have to find that ship, Jake said. Whatever the Coalition is planning next, we need to be ready. The Coalition was indeed planning something. High Commander Zorvith had received reinforcements from every member world. He now commanded over 15,000 warships, the largest fleet ever assembled in galactic history. His target was no longer the colonies. His target was Earth itself. If we destroy their homeworld, we destroy their spirit, he announced to his officers. Without Earth, humanity will break. They will surrender. They will die. The fleet launched toward Earth. This time, there would be no retreat. This time, the Coalition would finish what they started. On Earth, Commander Nick Bradley received his orders directly from Admiral Hartley. Nick was a pilot, one of the best in the fleet. He had flown everything from small fighters to heavy cruisers. Now, he was being sent to the Pacific Ocean to find an alien ship that was 12,000 years old. This is crazy, he muttered as his shuttle descended toward the water. Absolutely crazy. But he went anyway, because that was what humans did. They faced the impossible and somehow made it work that the coordinates led to a spot in the deepest part of the ocean. Nick took his shuttle down into the darkness. Normal sensors could not penetrate this deep, but the Vayari technology in his ship cut through the water like it was not their dot, and then he saw it. A ship. Massive beyond belief. 3 kilometers long, resting on the ocean floor like a sleeping giant. It had been waiting there for thousands of years, patient and silent, ready for the moment when humanity would need it most. Nick brought his shuttle alongside what looked like an entrance. A door opened, responding to his presence. The ship was alive in a way, and it recognized him. He stepped inside, and the ship spoke to him. Not in words, but in feelings and images. It welcomed him. It had been waiting for him. It was ready to serve. Nick Bradley smiled. The Coalition had no idea what was coming. The Vayari had chosen well. Commander Nick Bradley walked through the corridors of the ancient ship. The walls glowed with soft light, responding to his presence. Every step he took brought new systems online. The ship was waking up after 12,000 years of sleep, and it was happy to see him. He reached the command center and stopped in amazement. The room was circular, with a single chair in the center surrounded by floating displays. Through the transparent ceiling, he could see the dark waters of the ocean above. But he could also see something else. Stars. The ship was showing him the galaxy as if the water was not there. Nick sat in the command chair, and everything changed. The ship connected to his mind. It was not painful, but it was overwhelming. Suddenly, he could feel every system, every weapon, every engine. The ship became an extension of his body. When he thought about moving, the ship prepared to move. When he thought about fighting, weapon systems activated across the hull. But there was more. The ship carried memories, fragments of Viari thoughts and experiences stored in its crystals for millennia. Nick saw flashes of their civilization at its height. Beautiful cities floating among the clouds. Ships traveling between galaxies like boats crossing a river. Peace and knowledge and wonder. And then he saw the end. The darkness that came from outside. Creatures that consumed everything they touched. The desperate final battles. The fall. The Viari had died so that humanity could live. They had given everything they had, holding nothing back. Nick felt tears running down his face. He had never known these people, but he loved them for what they had done. "I won't let you down," he whispered. "I promise." The ship hummed in response. It believed him. Admiral Hartley's voice came through the communication system. "Commander Bradley, what is your status?" Nick took a deep breath. "Sir, you're not going to believe this. The ship is operational. Fully operational. And it's incredible. Can you fly it?" Nick smiled. "Sir, this ship and I are one now. I can do anything with it." "Good. Because the Coalition fleet just entered our solar system. 15,000 ships, heading straight for Earth. We have maybe 6 hours before they arrive." 6 hours. Nick started bringing the main engines online. The ocean around the ship began to churn as ancient power awakened. Fish fled in all directions. The water grew warm. "I'll be there in time," Nick said. "Just hold them as long as you can." On the surface, humanity prepared for its final stand. Every ship that could fly gathered around Earth. 43 vessels against 15,000. The math was impossible, but they came anyway. Admiral Hartley stood on the bridge of the Valiant Sun and watched the Coalition fleet approach. It filled his entire view screen. Thousands and thousands of ships, arranged in perfect attack formation. At the center was the Kelthari flagship, a massive vessel 3 times larger than anything humanity possessed. "High Commander." Zorvith's face appeared on the communication screen. His gray skin was flushed with confidence, and his forearms were crossed in a gesture of dominance. "Admiral Hartley," he said, "I am giving you one final chance to surrender. Lay down your weapons and accept Coalition rule, and your people will be allowed to live as servants." Jake looked at the alien commander. He thought about everything humanity had built. Every dream, every hope, every sacrifice. He thought about the Viari, who had believed in humanity when humans were still learning to make fire. "No," he said simply. Zorvith's eyes narrowed. "Then you will die. Maybe, but we'll take a lot of you with us." The communication ended. The Coalition fleet opened fire. Lisa Monroe worked her weapons console with desperate speed. The Valiant Sun's pulse cannons blazed, destroying Coalition ships with every shot. But there were so many. For every ship they killed, 10 more took its place. "Shields at 60%, someone called out. "Port engine damaged," another voice reported. The human fleet was being pushed back. Ships were dying. The carrier Bright Star exploded in a ball of fire. The destroyer Quicksilver was cut in half by enemy weapons. On the ground, Sergeant Danny Cole watched the battle in the sky. He had been evacuated back to Earth after the fighting on New Haven, and now he stood in a military base near the coast, waiting for the invasion that would surely come. Private Amy Foster stood beside him. "Are we going to lose?" she asked quietly. Danny watched the flashes of light in the sky. Human ships dying. Human lives ending. "I don't know," he admitted, "but we're not going to stop fighting." And then something rose from the ocean. The water exploded outward as the Inheritance broke through the surface. The Vayari ship was massive, larger than anything humanity or the Coalition had ever built. It rose into the sky like a god waking from sleep, water streaming from its hull, ancient engines blazing with power. On the bridge of the flagship, High Commander Zorvith stared at the new arrival. His confident expression melted into confusion, then fear. "What is that?" he whispered. No one could answer him. Nothing in Coalition records matched this ship. Nothing in galactic history came close. Nick Bradley sat in the command chair of the Inheritance, and he felt invincible. The ship systems were fully active now. Shields that could stop anything. Weapons that could destroy anything. Speed that made other ships look like they were standing still. "Lieutenant Commander Monroe," he broadcast to the fleet, "I'm patching into your tactical network. Let's show these aliens what happens when they pick a fight with humanity." Lisa received the data link and gasped. The Inheritance's systems made the valiant sun look like a toy. She had never seen anything so advanced. "Admiral," she said, "you need to see this." Jake looked at her display and felt hope for the first time since the battle began. "All ships, form up behind the Inheritance. Let's end this." The Vayari ship moved forward, and the Coalition fleet opened fire. Every ship in their formation targeted the Inheritance with everything they had. Beams of energy, missiles, kinetic projectiles. Enough firepower to destroy a planet. The Inheritance's shields absorbed it all without flickering. The ancient ship didn't even slow down, and then it fired back. A single beam of pure white. Energy shot from the front of the Inheritance. It passed through the Coalition formation like a knife through water. Ships didn't just explode. They ceased to exist. The beam unmade matter itself, erasing 2,000 vessels in a single moment. The Coalition fleet stopped firing. They were too stunned to continue. Nick targeted the flagship. "High Commander Zorvith," he broadcast. "You declared war on humanity. You tried to enslave us. You tried to destroy our home. And now you're going to pay for it." The Inheritance fired again. The Kelthari flagship lasted exactly 1 second longer than the other ships. Its shields, the most advanced in the Coalition, held for that single moment before failing completely. Then it was gone. Zorvith was gone. Vaporized in an instant, the remaining Coalition ships tried to flee. Nick let most of them go. They were no threat anymore. They were broken. But a few ships, the ones that had been personally responsible for attacking human colonies, those he destroyed. It was not cruelty. It was justice. The battle was over in less than 20 minutes. Admiral Hartley looked at the wreckage floating in space. Thousands of destroyed Coalition ships. Not a single additional human vessel lost after the Inheritance arrived. "Commander Bradley," he said slowly, "that was... I don't have words." Nick's voice came back tired but satisfied. "We're just getting started, Admiral. The Vayari left us everything we need. Technology, knowledge, power. The Coalition thought they were the masters of the galaxy. They were wrong." On the ground, Danny Cole watched the sky clear. The battle was over. Humanity had won. Private Amy Foster was crying. "We did it," she said. "We actually did it." Danny put his hand on her shoulder. "We did. And we're never going to let anyone threaten us again." In space, the Inheritance floated triumphantly above Earth. Nick Bradley looked out at the planet he had just saved. Blue and green and beautiful. The Vayari had believed in humanity. They had given everything to protect this world, and its people. Nick would make sure their faith was rewarded. The surrender came 3 days after the battle for Earth. Every member of the Galactic Coalition sent representatives to the neutral space station known as Gateway. They came with heads bowed and voices quiet. The masters of the galaxy had been humbled. Admiral Jake Hartley represented humanity at the negotiations. He sat across from the leaders of 12 ancient civilizations, beings who had ruled the stars for 50,000 years. They looked at him with fear now. Fear and something else. Respect. "We offer unconditional surrender," said the Kelthari representative. He was a young officer who had taken command after Zorvith's death. His voice trembled slightly. "We ask only that you spare our people." Jake studied the alien faces before him. He remembered everything the Coalition had done. The ultimatum. The invasion. The attempt to destroy Earth. Part of him wanted revenge. Part of him wanted to make them suffer the way they had made humanity suffer. But that was not the human way. Not the way he wanted it to be. "We accept your surrender," Jake said. "But we're not going to do to you what you tried to do to us. We're not going to enslave you or destroy your worlds. We're going to do something different." The Coalition representatives looked confused. This was not how galactic politics worked. The strong crushed the weak. That was the law of the universe. "We're going to help you," Jake continued. "The Vayari gave us their technology and their knowledge. We're going to share it. Not as masters, but as partners. The galaxy is going to change, and we're all going to change together." The negotiations lasted 2 weeks. When they were finished, the Galactic Coalition no longer existed. In its place was a new organization, one where every species had an equal voice. Humans would lead it, not because they demanded power, but because the other species asked them to. Dr. Megan Walsh and her team spent months studying the Vayari archives recovered from Mars and the Inheritance. What they found was both wonderful and terrifying. The Vayari had not armed humanity out of pure kindness. They had done it because something was coming. Something from outside the galaxy. The same darkness that had destroyed the Vayari 12,000 years ago. "It's still out there," Megan reported to the Earth Council. "The threat that killed the Vayari. It retreated after their civilization fell, but it's coming back." The Vayari believed it would return within the next few centuries. The Council listened in silence. They had just won the greatest victory in human history. Now they learned that the real war had not even begun. "What do we do?" someone asked. Jake Hartley answered. "We prepare. We build. We get ready. And when this enemy arrives, we'll face it together." Captain Kate Dawson was promoted to lead humanity's new exploratory fleet. Her mission was simple but vast. The Vayari had not only helped humanity, they had seeded their technology on other worlds, with other species who might one day be allies. "Find them," Jake told her. "Find every civilization the Vayari touched. Bring them together. When the darkness comes, we'll need all the help we can get." Kate took command of a new ship, the first human vessel built with fully unlocked Vayari technology. She named it the New Dawn, because that's what this is. She explained to her crew on their first day. A new dawn for humanity. A new beginning for the galaxy. We're not just explorers anymore. We're guardians. The New Dawn launched on a clear morning, with millions of people watching from Earth's surface. It was the beginning of a new era. Sergeant Danny Cole did not join the explorers. He had seen enough battle for one lifetime. Instead, he accepted a position training the next generation of soldiers. "The war with the Coalition is over," he told his first class of recruits. "But there will be other challenges, other threats. And when they come, you need to be ready." Private Amy Foster was in that class. She had proven herself during the fighting on New Haven and the defense of Earth. Danny saw potential in her. The same fire that had burned in him when he was young. Never forget what the Viari did for us, he told his students. They believed in humanity when we were nothing. They gave us everything so we could survive. We owe them, and we pay that debt by being worthy of their sacrifice. Admiral Hartley retired from active service 6 months after the war. He had done his part. Now it was time for younger leaders to carry the torch. But retirement did not last long. 1 year after the Coalition's surrender, the first signals came from beyond the galactic rim. Strange patterns in the cosmic background radiation. Anomalies in the fabric of space itself. The sensors on the Inheritance detected them first, but soon every observatory in human space confirmed the same thing. Something was waking up out there. Something vast and ancient and hungry. Jake returned to duty immediately. We knew this was coming, he told the Earth Council. The Viari warned us. Now we have to face it. Commander Nick Bradley still commanded the Inheritance. The bond between him and the ancient ship had only grown stronger over the past year. He could feel the ship's systems like they were his own body. He could sense its weapons like they were extensions of his will. When the call came, he was ready. I'll lead the first expedition beyond the rim, he volunteered. The Inheritance was built for this. I was born for this. Jake looked at the young commander. He saw determination in Nick's eyes, courage, and something else. The same fire that the Viari had seen in humanity all those thousands of years ago. Go, Jake said. Find out what we're dealing with. And come back alive. Nick smiled. I always do, sir. The Inheritance launched from Earth orbit on a bright summer day. Its engines blazed with power that no other ship in the galaxy could match. It carried the hopes and fears of every human being alive. As the ship approached the edge of known space, Nick looked back at the tiny blue dot that was Earth, his home. The home that the Viari had protected for 12,000 years. We're ready, he said quietly. Whatever is out there, we're ready. The Inheritance crossed the galactic rim and entered the vast darkness beyond. Behind it, humanity waited. They had come so far from those early days of caves and campfires. They had reached the stars and claimed their place among the great civilizations of the galaxy. But the real test was still ahead. On Earth, Danny Cole stood in front of his graduating class of soldiers. They were young and eager and full of hope. They reminded him of himself, back before the war, back before everything changed. The galaxy declared war on humans, he told them. They thought we were weak. They thought we would break. They had no idea who crafted our weapons. They had no idea what we were capable of. He looked at each of them in turn. These were the future defenders of humanity, the next generation of heroes. But we know, Danny continued, we know that we were chosen. We know that we were prepared. And we know that no matter what challenges come, no matter what enemies arise, we will face them together. We will fight. We'll fight. We will survive. And we will win. Somewhere beyond the edge of the galaxy, Commander Nick Bradley guided the Inheritance toward the unknown. The Viari's ancient enemy was stirring. A new war was coming, but humanity was ready. They had always been ready. The Viari had made sure of that. And in the end, that was the greatest gift of all. Not the weapons or the ships or the technology. It was the faith. The belief that one small species from one tiny planet could stand against the darkness and win. The galaxy had declared war on humans. They had no idea that humanity was built for exactly this. And now, at last, humans were going to prove it.